Okay, it's 6 o'clock. It's time to call the meeting to order. The roll call has been passed around and hopefully everybody has signed. Introductions. If the one person in particular I wanted to introduce is Joe Colbert, the downtown development attorney. He'll be here to help us wade through tonight's agenda.
Also, City Attorney Kevin Bennett.
If you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
Kevin Bennett, General Counsel for Fair City.
Welcome. Anybody else want to introduce themselves? Okay, approval of, looking for a motion for approval of agenda.
I'll make that motion, but I'd like to revise it to remove the consent agenda number 1 for the minutes regarding April 18th. And also, under action items, I think C4 should be moved to number 1. Otherwise, we don't know what our budget is.
I'm sorry, say it again, what you want C4 to do?
Okay. C4, I think, should be C1, because we're looking at spending money on a contract, possibly a economic development director, sponsorship, and then we're going to approve the budget, but we may not have the money for the budget.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Second, third.
Any questions on? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that passes. Okay, so we've removed the approval. Okay, so we need a consent or a motion for the consent agenda items. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Lori has supported it. Any questions? Denise, just so you know, we've taken out number 1
Yep.
on the, under consent agenda item, and we've moved C4 up to C1. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Okay, at this point in time, Kim is asked to speak because she has another meeting to go to.
Right up there. Thank you, everyone, to encompass everybody, the DDA board. Actually, I have a question before I do this. Looking at your action items, number 2 is City/Community Development Director. Did the DDA board receive a new proposal that did not include the DDA director as part of it?
No, the proposal is still stands as originally presented.
Okay. Well, I've spoke at the DDA board meetings before, and I just wanted to say really quickly that when I voted on the board that night, I was 100% sure that I was allowed to because I am the mayor pro tem. The mayor sits on the board, so I take his place when he's not there. Apparently, I'm hearing that that is not the case. Regardless, the board had voted. It was a unanimous vote. So that vote went through, should have went through that way, but because the vote didn't go the way it was supposed to, I believe that what amounted to a loophole was discovered. Not only am I the mayor pro tem, but I am also the liaison to the DDA board. So that being said, I just also wanted to note that that's what's happened in the past. Historically, that has always been the case. Back to when I started in 2010, and I suspect long before that. I believe our current mayor has also voted in the place of the mayor when he was on the board. Be that as it may be, though, it is what it is. I do just have one question, and the DDA board has repeatedly stated that they would consider paying for this position. They just did not want this position to include the DDA director. They asked for a new proposal to be brought over. That has not materialized at all. It's the same proposal at every meeting. So basically, my question is why? Why is it so important to the city for this person to also be the DDA director?
Is this public comment? What are we doing?
I'm sorry?
Is this public comment, or where are we at on?
This is a board meeting, we should be going down the agenda.
DDA board meetings aren't ran the same way as city council. They never have been.
Why do we have an agenda? We're on action items.
And I asked to come up and speak first, and that was allowed, so. Hopefully, moving forward tonight, the members of this DDA board will ask that question and demand that it be answered.
Well, hopefully we'll have it answered by the end of tonight. Okay?
So, I said it before, I'm going to say it again, there's reasons why the state legislature wanted the DDA boards to be autonomous from city government. And I hope that you guys do tonight what is right for our business and our property owners downtown. Thank you.
Okay. Budget approval, 2023-24. You should have in your packet the budget that we are presenting. And I do apologize for the still having some pencil markings, but there was questions on the ending fund balances, and it was not updated by the city treasurer when he put the board or the budget together. So,
Okay, so
what questions do we have?
I have some, because I showed the budget to our city treasurer, and he seems to disagree with some of the numbers.
What numbers can he disagree with? It's his numbers.
No, you mistotaled some items on that page. Fund balance was wrong, and you take this use of fund balance as a revenue number, but it's during the year it goes to change.
I'm sorry, you got to speak up.
Okay, can you,
The amount you presented to Mr. Jacobs didn't include interest in revenue and also didn't include the stabilization money for personal property tax reimbursement. So your total revenue was off by $40,000.
Which total revenue are we talking?
Can I come up and show you?
I'm sorry?
May I come up and show you?
Yes.
So this number here that you have is 735. You carried it down there as well as 753 to 753. You didn't include these two revenue numbers, so that you're right. Tax amount is 753 plus the 15,000, the 25,000.
Oh,
This is actually understated by 40,000.
Yes, you're correct. I'm sorry.
And for a point of reference, when we're doing the projection of what the future activity is, we do not use the use of fund balance
Understand.
because it needs,
Understand.
because this isn't changing down here properly. So unfortunately, this isn't,
Well,
you know what I
we were
mean?
answering, I was trying to answer what the mayor had for the last meeting, so, okay. Correction to what you have is on the revenue for current year, it should be $793,400. Which then makes the ending balance, the fund ending balance at $411,585 for 2022 and 23.
411. 411 what?
$411,585,
Thank you.
which then goes back to the number that Brian had at $40,073 as far as at the end of 2023-24. Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Can we get a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Okay, going on to C1, CG Energy. This, of course, is the lighting project, just for the new people on the board. We discovered about a year ago, that we've got some light poles that are deteriorating because of the salt, and we actually had the one in front of Chase Bank fall down. Luckily, it fell on the grass and not the road. And we had a company come in and do a survey of those different light poles, and found, John, some 20, is that correct? Was it about 20 poles that they decided to take out? They were
13.
13.
13 poles had to be removed immediately.
Yeah, okay, so 13 poles are missing down there, as you can see on the, with the construction barrels where the electricity would be running, so to protect that. So based upon that, then we, of course, got our friend at CGE who was very instrumental in getting those poles, the LEDs put in some 10, 12 years ago, I'm not sure how long ago now. And Gary worked with us to come up with a proposal, and CGE, we still owe them some $43,000 for the maintenance of the current LEDs, and they have agreed to roll that in to what we need for a total of $961,000. Just a moment, let me get to the actual number. 961 or 956, 311.77.
Question for the chair.
Sure.
We definitely need to replace the poles. I'm all for that. They rusted out. My question is, did we send this out? How many bids did we get? This is just under $1 million. Anytime in government, you should get 3 bids. What if somebody can do it for $800,000? That's $156,000 we'd have to spend on something else. So my question is, was this the only bid?
We did not send it out. The board decided not to send it out to bid because of the work that CGE has done for us. They know the area. They were willing to roll the $43,000 into the new bid. Customer service has been phenomenal. So the board decided.
I understand that, but for just under $1 million, that should have went out to bid. That's crazy to spend
That was before
$950.
your time on the board, so
Well, I know, but I'm here now and I'm voting on it, and I just only seen this bid. And
and we've talked about the danger of the other poles. We looked at that as far as potential of other poles. Do we want to wait to go through the bidding process, which would delay it even more? Yes, Lauren.
So if I could, he also said that we should send it to bid if that was what everyone wanted to do, and he wanted to give us a quote just on the labor, since the materials should be the same price. We could order the materials ourselves and take bids on the labor. When we got down to that, that's when we realized that we weren't really going to save any money, and he was very familiar with this project. He's come out numerous times to check things, to fix things, and we felt very comfortable giving it right back to him.
okay.
Any other comments?
Have we had any other contracts, big contracts with them?
I'm sorry?
Have we had any other kind of big contracts?
Yes, they did the LED lighting.
Which was how much? I mean, is it a big project? Is it 100,000? Okay.
And we can't go back and look because we're here rather than at the office, so. No right offhand. Any other questions? Any motion? Yes, Joe?
So, I'm here, I was asked to do a legal opinion with respect to the voting by the mayor pro tem. And so I did that. In fact, I have a written opinion. It's long, so I'm just gonna hand it out to everyone this evening. But I believe there was enough votes to pass this, but because it really cast a doubt, and I've come to the conclusion that she really should not be voting when the mayor's not here. In fact, no one should. If he's not here, he's not here, just like any of you. And I explained all that in this legal opinion. But what does concern me is I understand the contractor was notified that he had the contract and he's expended funds towards this project. So whether the contract's valid or not, my concern is always that someone acted in reliance on the honest belief that he had a contract. And then if there was any loss for him, the DDA could be liable for that. So I just want to make this board aware of that and make sure you carefully consider how this goes.
Since we're on that subject, then, if they fronted us $400,000, which is what I was told they were, would that not be a loan, which should have gone before city council?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Well, can we,
I mean,
can
I
we,
guess-
can we take a loan without city council approval?
You cannot. No, the DDA board cannot do that.
Okay, so if he fronted us $400,000, that's not our money, that would be a loan, would it not?
I wouldn't call that a loan. I would call it, and they would call that they have a contract and they've expended funds in order to honor that contract with the city. That's why I believe that their argument would be. Someone could, I guess you could try to say that that's a loan, but.
Well, if it's not our money, and it's.
But they did that with the
Sure.
expectation of getting $400,000 check that week,
Yeah.
2 days later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, could I, could I just pass this out now? You don't have to read it now. I just want to do it. I don't want to leave without passing this out. So-
Could you,
I'm sorry,
Joe,
is
Joe,
this
could
the
you hold
attorney
off on
representing
that?
the DDA?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Joe, could you hold off on that?
Sure.
And we'll make sure and get it before you
Oh,
go,
okay.
because we're trying to get through the
Certainly.
lighting project. Okay? Thank you. Okay, any questions? Motion, is there a motion? On the contract?
So are we voting to move forward with the contract as
Yes.
it's stated?
To accept the contract or
Yes, we should,
accept a proposal?
from CGE to do the light, yes. I'll take that, I'll motion.
Lori made the motion. Any further questions?
Should we discuss how we're going to pay for it, or we're just saying we're approving the contract and we'll,
We've already passed the budget to pay for it.
so we're taking the budget down to $40,000, which we discussed at the last meeting we didn't want to do.
There was
Okay.
an opportunity, I think, that we can get the money from the city,
We could get a loan from the
That's
city.
not
loan
what-
from the city.
That's not what the board just approved.
Okay. No, but that's, I think, what Mayor was saying, is we can get a loan from the city rather than use our own money.
But we just approved a budget saying we're gonna pay for it. Unless you wanna go back?
No? I'm good.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? So that passes. Okay, C3, sponsorship of the Garden City Business Alliance Music in the Park. John? John?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Garden City Business Alliance hosts a event in the park every year. It's called Music in the Park. They're looking for sponsorships.
Excuse me, John, I skipped. Sorry. Let's go back to where I should be. C2, the city, city com development director proposal. I skipped that, I apologize. Is there-
Item C2, the city has presented a economic development position proposal, which all the board members have seen and have in your information. There's 5 pages worth of information associated with this. And we did some voting on this in the past, but here we are to vote on it today as presented.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion
To,
to go with it, to hire the Economic Development Director, who will also be the DDA Director and also be over buildings with the splitting the money between the city and the DDA. For, I'm trying to remember the numbers. Was it 210 and 70?
70 and 135.
Yeah,
The
okay.
contract presents at $205,000 a year total, with a $100,000 advertising salary, with a split between the DDA contributing $70,000 per year and the city contributing $135,000. That has to do with retirements and some details that maybe Mayor Jacobs can fill in. This was presented by Mayor Jacobs and the city manager to the DDA.
is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay,
I'd like to make some comments. I've been involved with the DDA for 13 years, so I have a lot of experience with this. And I said this when I was the mayor, but I got outvoted a lot. Our DDA director was treated more like an event coordinator. She did an excellent job, the chili cook-off, the Lucky Squirrels. But DDA is downtown development. Nobody ever did much development of the empty buildings. And to me, we had an event coordinator. We need a professional economic development director to fill these empty buildings in the DDA and throughout the city. And I also have never seen a lot of traffic in the DDA, so I don't think it's a full-time position. So going with a part-time DDA director and an economic director and who will oversee the building department, to me, is the right move for this board to finally take, so we can have, an economic development director to fill up these empty buildings. And again, it's more than an event coordinator. And to me, we failed on that part of the DDA, in my opinion, the last 13 years. And I said it when I was on the board, but I got outvoted. But this is our opportunity to do the right thing for Garden City.
but is it legal for the DDA director to be employed by the city is the question. It's one of the questions we've had in the past.
You got one legal opinion that already said it is all right. Seeing as how our treasurer does our finances, what's the difference? We're paying a city employee to do our finances. So what would be the difference of us
No,
paying?
we're paying the city employee, we're paying the city $1,000 a month to do the finances, or whatever.
Okay.
Mayor, I think that comes down to a percentage of contribution. the percentage of contribution listed here shows it about 1/3. The contribution to have the treasurer for the city do the finance or the accounting is way below that mark.
Okay,
So Mark, I have a question too.
go ahead.
Like, if we move forward and decide that this, gets approved, does the DDA have any input on the hiring process? Because before, when we were doing the interviews, we had a committee that we put together to do that process.
I would say yes.
What kind of input the DDA would have in hiring an individual for that position?
I would say probably the executive board would be involved. City would probably put out a national search, like we've done with every other department head. And we would bring in the people, and we would probably put the executive board of the DDA to have a say in it.
And I also recall, like, John, when you brought this to the board initially, that, you were asking, you and John as well, that I think you asked if there was an out, if this wasn't working for the DDA. If we give it a time frame, what kind of out do we have, on this? So did anybody get a clarified answer on
Well, I
whether or
would
not
say it
we
would be the
have-
same as any other department head. If they're not doing their job, they can be released.
So just
they're
releasing
not.
the employee, not the DDA pulling out of this, having the executive director be an employee of the city.
Well, the way I look at it is he would be he would work for both of us, the city and, when I ran for this position, my big deal was the economic development director. When Mr. Outlaw, the DDA was looking at hiring him, I came in and I said, I think the city could work with him being a DDA director. We didn't hire him. So now everything went the opposite way. Everybody wants the city to pay for the it's technically, it would be a $219,000 total compensation job for a $100,000 salary. So I don't think he would work exclusively for the city. I don't think he would work exclusively for DDA, but we would have an assistant, whoever we decided, if it was John or whoever, would be a part-time DDA director that would work with, basically as second in command. I don't know, I don't have a plan for how, if it doesn't work out, we would let them, DDA would pull out. But again, you look at our downtown, our development, we got Kmart's, we got Golden Feather, we got Mazzoni's property, we have Save More, we have Playmania now. There's a lot of empty business downtown, which I would think would be the number one priority of the DDA, of a economic development director. So for, I guess, the DDA to be worried that he's only going to work on city outside the DDA area, I think we're just deflecting.
I don't think that's what we think here, that he's not going to work in downtown. Obviously, downtown's very important. However, it sounds as if there are unanswered questions and that there are vague answers and that the DDA really loses its autonomy here. And originally, when it was presented, we talked about having an out to this if it doesn't work. If we feel like we have no say in what goes in downtown, or we kind of lost our voice as a board, then this new economic developer really isn't working with the DDA. So if who is he answering to? And how would decisions be made? How would they be approved?
I would say it'd be a two-part. He'd answer to the DDA, and he would answer to the city. I mean, he's going to have a part-time assistant or part-time development director and a part-time, or directly under the city manager, just like a department head. When you guys say you lose your autonomy or your voice, what have we voted on before? I mean, the last one was we fought Alberts coming in. We fought the brick color at K&E. We fought the brick color at the Moose. We fought the brick color everywhere there was. So when you say you're losing your voice, some of the stuff we've been led astray on anyways. We fought losing battles on all those. They were legal, they were allowed, and yet the DDA voted against it. So, it's
Mr. Chair, if I may. The DDA has never fought against any business coming in here in my tenure, in my time here. The DDA has only followed what the recommendations and the ordinances were written as that we were supposed to follow. So this board made their suggestions according to what was written in ordinances and requirements set forth by the Central Business District and the downtown area. Furthermore, if this board has no opportunity to say, because this economic development director is underneath the city manager, then this board doesn't get to direct anything, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. There seems to be a lot of uncertain things going into this. There's a 5-page list of a proposal here, but there's nothing laid out to say A, B, C, D, and E happen. For an example, if the DDA said, we're going to give you $70,000 and we're going to do that for 1 year, after that, and they pull their money back, what does the city do then? Do they fire that person or do they make up the difference? And if that's the case, why not pay for it yourself? And when I say yourself, I mean the city. The city said, and I say it again, they're in great financial shape. I understand you have an $8 million surplus, which is well above the mark. Is there a way to have the city just employ the entire economic development person and run their building department and work with a director of the DDA? This is my question.
No, I don't think so. So that would be my opinion. Apparently you want the city to take on the full cost. We have a $600,000 budget that we're taking down to, well, adjusting number $40,000. Why couldn't we have set some of that money aside? We got $65,000 set aside for a DDA director. Does that mean we've got an extra $65,000 for that director? Are we looking to hire a full-time DDA director now?
I don't think it's the wishes of this board to hire a full-time director.
Oh,
I think the
it's
wishes of
budgeted
this
for
board is to hire a
$65,000.
part-time director to work with your economic development director.
I'm just saying, it's budgeted for $65,000 for a salary. It's also budgeted for $20,000 for rent on a building that we don't need, that we could save coming over here. So if we save that $20,000, that would take DDA fee down to $50,000.
It's not the money that, at the meeting that you were not at, it wasn't the money issue as much as it was not having a voice with the DDA director.
Chair?
And I think as we've just seen over the past few weeks with this lighting project, when the city does not want us to do something.
No, it's not that we don't
You guys
want
are
you to
just
do
walking the
anything. We want
doors
you to
on
do
us.
it legal. I'm not going to put the city in any kind of legal.
Chair Fleming?
Go ahead.
I think you guys are missing something here. The DDA only meets once a month. This person that we hire is going to be the DDA director. He's going to make the agenda up. The board's going to tell him what we want in the DDA area. And we are going to have a voice in telling our director and voting on stuff and what we want in the DDA area. The other time, he's going to be at City Hall. He's going to be working with the city manager on the other businesses outside of the DDA, Cherry Hill, Warren, whatever. That's why it's a two-part thing. But we're definitely going to have a voice. He's going to be making the agenda for the DDA, coming to the meeting once a month and listening to the board members on what's done in the DDA.
But who's going to do the work of the DDA director if he's only coming to the meetings?
He's going to do it. He's going to have to do it.
Who's
You'll
gonna-
also have a
when-
part,
when-
you also have a part-time.
If
you
we're
said
gonna
it's not
still
about
have a
the money, you'll have
part-time-
a part-time
If
DDA
we're going to have
director.
1.5 positions, you know, and I'll even go forward to this, because I heard this was brought up, and I made the motion. I would say that hiring this person, so the DDA has a voice, the city manager and the executive, the majority of the executive board voting have to agree on the person that's getting hired. So the DDA would have a voice. I'll put that into my motion. The executive board has to be in agreement, the majority of them, with the city manager before they hire this person. That way, the DDA does have a voice on who gets hired, as well as the city manager. But this person is going to be the DDA director for the DDA area. The rest of the time, he can work on the outside buildings. And I think that's the part you guys are missing.
There's a couple of more things to consider. I think that has to be written into the TIF plan in such a manner that is allowable for us to do so. Am I correct on that?
You know, first I want to make one point, just DDAs and cities, how they operate. If we look at the act, it really is more about cooperation. And, you know, in this issue, you appoint the director, and then the city approves the director. You prepare a budget, the city approves the budget. So it kind of helps just to change dynamics somewhat, to stop us against them. You know, just changing that paradox. I'm not saying that goes on here, but
It does.
So let's adjust our, if we can. So the way you spend your money on the DDA, you can spend your money in a manner consistent with what the state act says you can spend your money on. And within that paradigm, your plan. So your plan has to be consistent with state law. So for instance, state law says you can do a business incubator. I don't think that's in your plan, but if it was in your plan, you could do that. And if you wanted to, you could amend your plan. So when you're talking about this proposal, you need to make sure that it's such that every dollar spent is being used for something that's consistent with your plan. So I think someone mentioned being the building inspector, right? Now, I'm not saying you're gonna use DDA money to do that, but if you did do that, that would definitely be a problem. But if this individual is dedicating time to do sidewalks in this area, or to whatever, I'm trying to think what's in your plan, you have various projects. If that individual was dedicating the money that's being spent, so it would have to be consistent with the plan. Now, I don't know how you monitor that. I don't know how you do that, but that would be my concern. That would be something you would need to figure out how you address that. Does that make sense? So conceptually, it's a good idea. It's just you're raising these questions, and I don't have answers for all them. Did I answer your question?
I think the DDA board needs to know that it's allowable according to the plan that they have.
Well, the plan itself doesn't say who the director is.
The expenditure of money according to the plan.
Well, you could hire anyone so long as well, I shouldn't say anyone. The plan doesn't talk about who you hire. Now, the act says you appoint the director, subject to city approval.
But can we pay the city for the director? one of the questions.
Well,
Okay,
but that's
the act
not
and the
just a
state law
director.
doesn't address that specific issue, but my thought is, so long as that individual was doing something that was in the plan, I don't see a problem with that. Does that make sense? I just don't know how you would monitor that.
Chair.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Does
So-
that answer your question? I don't want to be
Yeah,
evasive.
he did.
This man has 3 titles, right? He's the building manager, he's the DDA director, he's the economic developer. And we're paying, what, a third of his salary? Does that, someone wearing 3 hats, is that in our laws there that we can do that? We can contribute towards someone that's not just paying the
think
DDA director,
that-
but we're paying someone who's,
I would think, and I haven't researched this, okay?
so then we need a
But-
legal
but-
answer?
but off my cuff, is he would have to be devoting 1/3 of his time to activities which are consistent with the DDA plan.
So then if that's the case, as we have in our paperwork from before, we were going to pay $65,000 for a full-time DDA director, and now it's been mentioned several times this evening that we only need a part-time director. So then, if we are hiring someone part-time, would we still pay him that full-time salary that we had
Yeah.
discussed before?
The 65,000 was just salary before. Didn't
For
include
full-time.
benefits.
Doesn't
Yeah.
include benefits
Full
or
Did
time.
not
anything.
include benefits.
So the
This
cost would probably get higher.
70,000 just is.
You're still
doesn't
going to have
include
1.5 positions. He's still going to have an assistant, whatever you want to call it.
Why doesn't the city consider not calling them the director? Why don't you just call them the economic development or community development director? Nothing to do with the DDA director. Is that just a semantic?
Well,
And the only reason I say that is if you just keep that autonomous with a
For the
title.
position proposal, it's an economic development position proposal. Doesn't say anything about, right? It says economic development position. That would be the title, economic
Acting
development
as the
director.
DDA director.
Page 2, responsibilities include DDA director.
Okay, that would be
You know.
one of his responsibilities.
May I?
Yes, go ahead, sure.
When we first, the meeting that you weren't at, that we all voted and we discussed all this, we went through lengths and we all discussed, at the end we voted, and we weren't voting to not have an economics developer. We want that. We still wanted to have the DDA with the DDA director and have the economics developer. And when you first presented it to us, you had said we would all we would work together.
Right.
And so that's how we voted. We voted no on how it was written. And then we were waiting for something to come back to us to just kind of meet, to discuss, but there never was a discussion or a new proposal written.
I guess what I see out of this is there's a complete lack of trust. You're saying if we do this, the city's going to completely cut out the DDA. You guys don't trust us at all. When it was Henry
No.
Outlaw.
I don't think this board's saying that at all.
Let the mayor finish.
When we were going to hire Henry Outlaw and he was going to work for the DDA as their full-time downtown development director, I had brought the same basic proposal up. Let's work together, split money. I said the city would be willing to put money in, but for whatever reason, we didn't hire him. So now it's shifted from you got DDA hiring the downtown development director to let the city hire him, and you guys will put in whatever you want. But to me, the role's basically the same as what it was with Henry Outlaw that you guys were all in agreement for.
Well, the role with Henry Outlaw was on paper one thing, and then over the next 2 weeks, it changed to something completely different. That's why the board said no.
Correct.
That's
But
the only thing.
proposal is still-
I think if you relook at this with a little bit more in-depth, itemized ideas of what's going to happen and how this plays out, then this DDA board would say, okay, this seems a little bit more solid, so you don't do this and then change it to that. And I don't think there's any mistrust here. I'm confident in saying this entire board has done nothing but talk about how they want to work with the city. No question. It was the dollar amount for what they were getting back. It was a semantic on a title, and it was the reporting of who is going to report to who and how. And those are just unknowns. And I think if they're known, I think the conversation would continue straightforward.
If I could.
And I don't know what that looks like. But maybe it's just another conversation with you and the city manager.
Who would this person, how would you word it to who he would report to? Let me flip it back on you. Who would he report to? Who would be his immediate boss?
Well, you guys are hiring him. And when I say you guys, I mean the city wants to hire him under their umbrella.
So who would be his boss?
Well, shouldn't that
You want to
depend?
be his boss, but you want the city to be the boss.
The DDA does not want to lose their voice and their ability to make things happen under their jurisdiction.
How would you word that if we're hiring them? How would you tell me?
I would take the name DDA director off of this entire proposal. And I would just say, you guys, the city is hiring an economic development director or community program or whatever you want to call it. And this person is working side by side with the DDA's representative, which is a director, or you can call it assistant director or whatever.
Okay, Lori?
As long as there's this, right? The city and DDA are working together. That's what we want.
Okay, Lori.
That's what the board wants.
I wanted to just say that these were the things that we discussed at the meeting that Charlotte was referencing a few minutes ago when she asked for something to come back to us. These were the things that were brought up. We asked for it to be rewritten, to come back to us, because we did want to be involved. But we didn't get anything different. We're still looking at the same thing. So we're still having the same conversation. So if it can be remedied, as John has said, I think you have everybody on board.
Randy?
Let me switch gears here. Let's say the DDA has their own director and the city hires an economic development director. Now you got two. What if they're not in agreement? The DDA wants to do something in the DDA area and the economic development director is not behind it, or vice versa. Okay, if you have one person, there's not going to be arguments on what, you know, I don't want this downtown, I don't want this. And this person is going to listen to the DDA board. So when you have one person, you're eliminating the arguments if they're not, two separate people are not in agreement on what's going to be done in the DDA area. We've already had that kind of arguing
Can I
and
ask
stuff.
something? Are you saying that just one person will be making all the decisions then?
With the board.
I don't
We
think,
agree on something,
he's
they get to
gonna-
say
he-
whether it passes or not?
The proposal out there is this person's going to wear three hats, okay? So he's going to listen to the DDA board for what the DDA wants in the downtown area, okay? If we do it the other way, and the DDA hires their own DDA director and the city hires an economic development director, what if those two are not in agreement about something in the DDA area? We won't have that if you have one person
Making all the decisions.
making the decisions on behalf of the city and the DDA, but the DDA director has to listen to his board. Like I said, the other time, the economic development director is gonna be doing work that doesn't have nothing to do with the DDA, the other businesses throughout the town that are not in the DDA area.
Lori?
so maybe a remedy is, as he's wearing three hats, two of the jobs that belong to primarily just the city, he would answer to who? The city manager.
Yep.
And when it comes to developing downtown,
He listens to us.
he has to come to this board,
Yep.
and we would have to approve it. And if we don't approve it, then it can't go forward. Is that what I'm hearing? Or it could still go forward even if we don't approve of it?
No, I believe it would come back to the board to make a decision.
We would have the
Now, if
final
there-
decision.
Right, the board would have the final decision. The only thing I would see is if there's an issue such as, again, I'll bring up Albert's, where the DDA board was dead set against it, said it was illegal, and it wasn't allowed, and our city attorneys and the city said it was legal and it was allowed, and it ended up going forward. I think that would be the only situation you could have where they would override the DDA board, if it was going to create a legal situation.
But this board would run the downtown
yeah.
development area.
With our own director.
But no, through whatever director we pick, even the economic development director.
Can't you fix
When he's
this?
over there, he's got to listen to us for the DDA area. He listens to city manager for the rest of the city.
But you can't have one attorney making both parties, making making it okay for this party and this party, and you got one attorney and they're both working hopefully together, right?
Right.
But if one person is not in agreement and then the other person is in agreement, that one person is gonna listen to who?
We would listen to the DDA attorney. We did tonight. He said it was illegal what was done at your meeting. That's the DDA attorney. That's not the city attorney. He just told you that was illegal.
Well, I didn't say it was illegal.
Well, it doesn't count. The vote doesn't count.
Well, we re-voted just to eliminate any doubt.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
I'm not saying it's illegal, because it was done for so many years. Now we're fixing something that could be questioned in the future.
okay. Any other questions on the motion on the table?
Just one. So are we going to see this rewritten so that we can try to make this happen, or?
I can take it back to administration, and we could see what we can do about rewording it to,
well, write down the things they want in there. What thing?
John.
That's it. If I may. You know, I keep hearing how the city administration's gonna write this thing. Why aren't you working with the director of the DDA, the current director, to write this together, rather than,
I believe we had a meeting with the director, with you, with me, and with the city manager, and talked exactly about this.
where you put it in front of us and said, okay, this is it?
No.
I'm saying, we didn't even get a chance to read it. We didn't even get a chance to read it.
It wasn't written, we talked about it. You weren't at that, we didn't sit in my office.
We absolutely sat in the conference room. Let me clarify a little bit, maybe. The proposal was written by the city manager and presented to myself and the chairman. And then our chairman said, let's go talk to the board. I mean, that seems right,
Us
doesn't
four
it?
sat in there, that's when it was given
Right.
to us.
And then this board made some suggestions, and that went back towards the city manager, and we were specifically told, the city isn't told what to do by the DDA. And I said, okay, how do we make some adjustments? So, in my opinion, I think that's where this board is at. Maybe you want to have a meeting next week, and I'll sit down with the city manager, and we can make some adjustments and make this look good and workable in all things. Reminding everybody, the board said, hey, we'll put some money towards this. Absolutely. They want to. They want to be part of that. I want to be part of that. I think some type of economic develop professional would be very helpful, but not to spite the board and their ability to have direction or give direction according to the TIF plan and the DDA. That's all. The other thing that was brought up was the amount of money that the city and DDA were going to spend. The average median income of an economic development director in the greater Metro Detroit area, I think, topped out at about $75,000. And I understand there's more than one hat being worn. So there was that as a subject matter. And then there was also, the DDA board was questioning to put a time limit on this, to feel it out and make sure it was working moving forward. And if it wasn't, then everybody would sit down and switch gears.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, and I'm kind of hearing that maybe we want to table the motion, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to get there.
I'll move to table my motion.
I'll support it since I was the supporter.
Okay, any?
You take a vote.
Okay.
to table.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So we'll come back and discuss this.
Yeah,
After
but our request is that the request gets, or the proposal gets rewritten, and as I work with John on that. Okay, now we can go to music in the park.
Music in the Park is put on by the Garden City Business Alliance. They offer different sponsorships for their event that's held on June, July, and August in the park. This is the 7th annual one. I am not 100% sure of what we've done in the past as far as sponsorship, if any. And I say that because it is not directly in the DDA district, so I don't know where that falls for us.
I think we did sponsor
I think we did too.
in prior years
Okay?
as a community participant.
Okay. So in the light of everything, there's different sponsor levels there, whatever the board wishes.
What is this one?
We have a
Yeah,
2,500, a 750, and a 200.
This one?
I think that's what we did.
All right. I make the motion that we do the $200, the backup singer sponsor, since it's not really in the DDA area, but we do want to support, because it is a city event. So I would say the backup singer sponsor, which is the lowest one, for $200 is my motion.
Second.
Okay, we have support. Any questions on that? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, C5 then.
In the past, the DDA director had a credit card to be able to, do day-to-day and month-to-month. In the past, the challenges I understand are the credit card has to be specifically labeled to a human. It can't be this, that, or the other thing. We do our financials through the city, so our ability to get a credit card and just have one for, Michigan Economic Development Corporation memberships and things of that nature, we don't have one right now. So I can do some research on how we can get one. I don't know if it needs to be an action item, but I just wanted to bring it up because we have to keep operating in some way, shape, or form. And the city has their own credit card for different bank account that has nothing to do with us, so we can't cross that line, so.
What would be the maximum spend on a card like that?
I thought it was 500 in the past, was voted on the limit. I think it was a $500 limit per transaction. But in most cases, all those are pre-authorized and pre-voted on by the board. It's really just to be able to, set up those recurring memberships and so on and so forth, and then be able to, check right against that. We never had a credit card that had carried a balance. It was always paid off, just FYI.
Yes.
So I'll do some research on that. I don't know if there's an action to be
Saying
taken.
not a $500 limit on the card, but a $500 per transaction on a card.
Well, what I'm saying is the board only allowed the director to spend up to $500
Without board approval.
without board approval. Yeah, correct.
So can we get a motion?
I motion to get a credit card for the DDA.
Second.
Okay, any other questions?
What if we have, I get 500 per transaction, but what if there's 3 transactions of $400? None of it needs our approval? We just spent $1,200?
That's a valid question. I think probably if we are able to establish something, then the board can vote to all those parameters and set that up, like $500 per month or per event, or however the board wishes to do it.
Okay.
But nothing's set because we don't have anything, so maybe we could visit that if and when.
Yeah. We had a procedure at Ford Motor Company where, let's say it's $1,500 for something that you want, and you just tell the guy, I'll give you $400 today, $400 tomorrow, $400. That's piggybacking when you're really purchasing something that's $1,400 or $1,500.
Sure.
So no piggybacking to bypass you got to go in front of the board because it's more than $500. Follow me?
Yeah,
Yeah, and to
absolutely.
pay the bill, it has to go to the chair anyway for approval.
Right.
So the chair will be able to see it if there is something like that going on, so.
Yeah.
And I would imagine we'd get a statement of all the purchases,
Yes, yeah.
because I know I'm still waiting on the chili cook-off expenses.
Yeah, me too. As soon as I get that together for you, you'll have it, sir.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstention. Joe, did you want to get out of here? Did you want to pass those out and get out?
Sounds good. My wife
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. We got lost.
If you're gonna do that, will that answer, or is that gonna answer all the questions that we had that our city attorney answered? Because it-
only asked to respond to this.
Yeah. The city attorney, yeah, I don't see where we're gonna meet him. I mean, nothing personal.
If your wife's upset, it was
because if
John
he-
Fleming
because
that
if
kept
he had a
you.
differing opinion,
Right, then he
I
would
wanted
need
to
them.
get, I couldn't answer for the
Oh.
city attorney.
So we're already moving on.
But I will tell you,
Thank you.
I don't have and I think I said it here, I don't have a problem with the idea of the DDA appointing working out some kind of cooperative arrangement. My caveat is, we need to make sure, just saying what I said, that the money that's being spent by the DDA is being spent for matters that are consistent with the plan. So whatever employment agreement you have, you need to make sure that that is being done, and somehow you can keep track of that.
Okay, I do have a question on this, though, because it looks like it's kind of the same thing that the city attorney had, including where it said, thus under state law, the city has the power to decide whether DDA board member will be the mayor or the city manager or the designee of the CEO from the governing body.
And keep reading.
Section 33.166 of the Garden City Code of Ordinances defines the CEO as the mayor of the city. Okay, so per what the city attorney said, the city manager would be the substitute.
There is no substitute. If you don't show up, you don't show up. Just like as anyone here, they don't.
Okay, so this would be something,
Well, here it says
But you know what?
the mayor or the city manager or the designee.
This issue, I mean.
I want a clarification, because if it comes up again, you're saying no one can vote for me. Our city attorney had made his legal opinion that said someone could.
And my point is, we should not even, look, every time you do this, you challenge every decision that's being made here, okay? I did a lot of research on this opinion, and I respectfully disagree that there is anyone else who can sit in your place if you're not here. If he can find some authority to back it up, but anyway, I stand by my opinion, I respect what he's saying, but I don't see anything to back it up. And I'd rather not sit here and debate it in public, I'd be happy to talk to him. But if you want to debate it in public, I don't want you to. Yeah.
This is what I have right here. Chief Executive Officer, municipality.
Right.
Or is a group designee.
Right.
So he can't send somebody else.
I read that. Here, sir, I'll tell you what, here's my legal opinion. Let's read the whole thing. And then,
I stand by what I go.
okay.
Can, Can I ask
So-
one question? before
So,
they leave?
anyway, I hope, yeah, go ahead.
So in regards to the designee, just for clarification, and the city's attorney as well,
Right.
I think he's saying that he could appoint somebody to replace him permanently as taking on the, sitting on the board. With that, now that I could see, understand, saying he appoints a designee, but to monthly appoint somebody different, well, then that's quite different, isn't
What
it?
we have here is we have a state statute that provides some guidelines, like earlier, I made the comment of, you know, some certain things the DDA can do. Yeah, I use the example of a business incubator, right? But I don't think the city's chosen to do that. So the state law says it can be the mayor, it can be the city manager, and it can be or someone the mayor appoints. But Garden City created an ordinance which defines the chief executive officer as the mayor. So you gotta read all of them together to come up with this decision. Now, if the city, or if they want to change the city ordinance, say something else, that could be done. So.
Could you use the mic, because we are recording and
Oh, yeah.
just,
So.
our downstairs is saying they can't.
Right. So I don't see anything that, I would even, I don't see anything that gives, see, the mayor right now, sitting in here, he's a board member, right? If any of you are not here, you're not here. You know, you can't, you don't pick a replacement to come in. And I get his thought, I get that, I don't find real authority to do that. And I will tell you, and unfortunately you're gonna see a large bill with this, I spent a lot of time with this, and I spoke to a lot of municipal attorneys about this. I don't take this lightly. So I don't believe there can be anyone, sir, if you're not at the meeting, I don't believe anyone can sit in your place. If you guys want to, if you're attorney, sir, if you want to keep researching it and we want to battle this out, you know, that's your choice. You want to go circuit court, you want to go to the attorney general, ask for an opinion. I even called the attorney general. And quite frankly, I wish I could agree with him, because it's unfortunate we get in these debates and we're spending time on a procedural issue when it could be resolved by, sir, you know, hopefully you can be at a meeting. If you're not, you're not. And so those are my thoughts. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Am I free to go?
You're the best.
Thank you.
Okay, you mentioned about that electrical box. Do you want to talk about that now, or?
I'll bring that up down in maintenance
Okay.
committee.
Okay, we have two new board members, as we know, Randy Walker and Rick Bozzi. And hopefully you will at least be able to say hi.
Item D2, I talked to Fred Kanda the other day. If you're not familiar with him, he is the gentleman that owns the property at the southeast corner of Ford and Middlebelt and Maplewood. Most people would know that as the former Maplewood Lumber. He is in litigation with his insurance company over some property issues that have to do with the roofing. He is working on that as diligently as he can, basically just giving you guys an update as soon as that is cleared up. Every time he tries to do work over there, he gets an injunction put against him, so he can't work on his own property because of the insurance company attorneys. So they're coming to some agreements, I understand, and they're going to start working on that property and enhance it. Item D3, construction has started at 5644 Middlebelt. If you're not familiar with that, it's on Middlebelt on the east side of the road, just south of the Garden City Cafe, where the merchandise building is, the former Kitty's. Just south of that, they're filling in the buildings between there and basically the bike shop building. The owner there is going to have another unit available for lease, and then he's going to have his offices for his architectural business upstairs. So if you drive by there, you'll see some action. If I may, Chair, move into committee reports.
Go right ahead.
So the Lucky Squirrel is this Saturday, May 20th. The event is full of vendors. There's 180 vendors. The event is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., open to the public for free. Pretty exciting event. And then on Sunday, May 21st, is the Indie Art and Craft show that's put on by Creative Soul Makery. That's in conjunction with Charlotte Laurie. Her event will be on Sunday from noon till 5 p.m. in the same area. So if you're looking for anything according to vendors on Saturday, and then some more indie artistic type things will be on Sunday. The other two events are open and readily taking applications now. They're partially full. Moving down to E3, we have a lighting meter box that's compromised. It's on the southeast corner of Ford and Middle Belt, just south of the pharmacy medical center, Garden City Medical Center. Basically what happened is that box rusted out from the bottom up and it fell over. It compromised the lights. It's compromising the street lights at the south side of Ford Road at Middle Belt, and it's also compromising the sprinkler system that has to do with the whole south side there as well. Our maintenance director, Gary Carter, has found the replacement parts for this at the cost of $425 to get basically new legs, stand that box back up, get it back in service so we can have our lights back on and our sprinklers working. If the board chooses, we can move forward to an action on that. Otherwise, we sit and wait some more. It's already been laying on its side for well over 2 weeks.
I'll motion to move forward with that.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Business vacancy social media campaign.
I started a social media campaign. Basically, we're taking every vacant property or for lease property and over the course of the next few weeks, advertising it on the downtown Garden City page. We're asking citizens and residents to like it and share it. The whole purpose is to try to attract attention to these opportunities that are in our city and on our main road, on Ford Road, to get some spotlight on it. So unfortunately, in some cases, it goes historical with people. They like to talk about what used to be and what was, and then they like to have a conversation about what they would like. Well, it's not up to us. We're just trying to help promote the property. So if somebody wants to come in and do some redevelopment or something like that. So if you get a chance, you want to share that out, and I'm just going to keep moving forward with that.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
On those posts, should we not be allowing commenting so that people don't, go down a rabbit hole with what they want, and maybe make it so that they send a message directly to, that inbox if there is truly interest or questions?
I guess we could set it up that way. In some instances, it's good to have conversation. It's healthy to have conversation because it might spark somebody to say, hey man, I got to put a bowling alley there, whatever the case may be. But it's very hard to manage. So we could try both ways and see how it goes, because I'm going to be, reintroducing those same properties again and again. So just trying to make it new and fresh and available.
Facebook also likes commenting and chitter chatter on posts and will show it to more people. So that's, turning it off might make that
Okay.
post just go, get buried.
Good point.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll continue to monitor that. Along with the events that we post, there's a ton of people that are trying to scam vendors out of $25.
That's
So
what I
I'm
would turn
constantly
it off on those.
blocking people and shutting that down. So,
Yeah, Kiwanis had to do that with the pig races too.
okay.
Okay, open discussion, Mayor?
Couple of things. I had a resident ask about storage in the CBD or DDA area. I told him I did not think it was allowed, and they brought up the old Play-Dohs that the DDA has been using as storage. I said I would bring it up to the board.
I'm sorry, what did the resident ask? I missed.
About storage in the DDA or CBD area. I said I do not believe it's allowed. and they questioned about DDA using storage at Plato, the old Plato's. So
Are they looking for a place for storage, or?
they just brought it, they asked if there were, I didn't ask if they were looking to open a
Okay.
business. They just asked if it was allowed.
Okay.
I said I did not think so, and then they brought that up. So I said I would bring it to the board. As I mentioned earlier, I'm still waiting for chili cook-off expenses and receipts just for future reference, along with once Lucky Squirrel's done, seeing how much money we spend, how much money we bring in, what we're spending it on. I think there's possibilities of other events downtown, and the group had asked me about what the budget was for it. I told them what the budget was, but I didn't know how much tents, stage, beer, anything else cost. So that's my take on that. And then also with the Mazzoni property being up for sale, I know, or I believe they took out some loans from the DDA before. Is there any rules, laws, whatever, about paying it back? Do they have to notify us? Do they have to notify anybody?
To my knowledge, those have to be paid off before the title transfer happens. That can't be left, because I think it goes to a tax lien, property tax lien, but it doesn't follow the new owner. It has to be paid off before that ownership changes.
Okay.
But I will do the research on that just to make sure. But in my experience, that's what it's been in the past.
John, is a lien filed already for that, or no, since it's up for sale?
They're filed at the time of, like, for example, if you did a parking lot improvement loan, when they fill out the application, they have to, that gets filed at the same time, and that's filed here at City Hall. So that should be on record. I'll just do the research on it and bring it back to you, sir.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Can I ask, are you asking about Lucky Squirrel expenditures for this 2023, or you want past, or?
This one's close enough. This would be fine.
Okay.
It's
Yes,
just
sir.
getting some numbers for, like I say, I've been approached by a group that does rather large events, and they were asking about our downtown and some of the events we do and what kind of prices we pay, what kind of costs are involved versus revenues versus all that stuff. And I said I would look into it, so.
Yes, sir.
Denise, anything?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Mike?
I have nothing.
Lori?
Good.
John, anything else?
I'm all set, sir.
Rick?
I was gonna ask, on that page he's referring to for Facebook, can businesses advertise on there? Newly opened businesses, try to advertise?
Can you answer that, John?
Or no, or it's just for vacancies?
Was that-
No.
On the city
It's a
page?
downtown page. We could talk about it.
Yeah, but for new businesses that are opening up, they're having a hard time taking off. That would kind of help a little bit.
Sure.
wouldn't it? Yeah.
Sure.
I know Mark, he did something with the water bill, right?
Yeah, in the
you-
buzz.
I'm sorry?
In the buzz, the
Yeah,
flyer, basically a flyer in the,
a flyer, okay, yeah, so something like that can help some of the businesses take off,
yeah, I try to do two every water bill cycle. Pick two businesses. I try to get,
Because it really worked with the Chicken Avenue that opened up. He's seen some traffic from that. Some customers came in and said that they seen the
I
advertisement.
try to work with the Business Alliance on a couple different businesses to put in there, so.
So it's just not specific to the downtown, it's throughout the city, right?
Correct.
Charlotte?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, a couple things. Number one, okay, we've approved the contract for CGE, and Gary is waiting to get paid the $400,000, so when can we get that check?
Mayor?
I will have to get with our treasurer and our city manager. City manager's not here, ultimately.
Brian, any idea? I'm sorry?
By sure this week, he said.
Oh. Well, well, my understanding is the check's already cut, so I don't know why.
It's not in my possession.
Okay. Okay, because we do want to get that out to him, and can you get a hold of John tomorrow and let him know? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. Okay. One last thing. This will be my final meeting. I am resigning. I will make it by the end of this week. I'll get you a letter to that effect. I guess this job became much more than I expected to be, and for someone that's trying to retire, it's become a full-time job. So I spent, 10, 12 years on the board. So I'll just let you know, and I'll get that emailed over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your service.
Okay, any comments from, this meeting is adjourned.
John may be missed.